And this evening, judge in ambulance trial advises Attorney General to recuse himself from ongoing trial, but the AG says he's not bound by the advice.
I'm conducting the matter. I'm still conducting the trial. The most important point today is that all the applications filed by the applicants have been dismissed in their entirety. All the 5 applications have failed.
Also, a Memphis Central NDC on fire over injunction of parliamentary candidates Joanna Kujojan over allegation of forged voters' ID and party card. We'll get you more details on that shortly. Public health fellow of the Center for Democratic Governance, Dr. Kwame Sapon-Isiedu, charges government to address emergency needs of existing health facility rather than going on construction for political expediency. As he reveals, only 5% of health facilities in the country have full complement of basic consulting room.
Only 5% of consultation rooms in the country have the full complement. I would rather people tell me how they are going to cure the sunk cost value in our health system
than to build new ones,
to make them functional.
Later, over 508,000 companies and businesses to be struck out from the record of the Registrar of Companies by the end of this month for failing to file their annual returns and renewal. Details of these stories and many more coming up shortly. Stay with me.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM. Starr News. Informed, in depth, in touch.
Many thanks for choosing us this evening. To our first story, the Attorney General, Godfred Adami, says he's still in charge of the conduct of the ongoing ambulance procurement case, despite an advice from the trial judge, Justice Ifiasewa Saribuchi. The judge observed that it would be prudent for Godfred Adami, who was heard in an audio conversation with Richard Jakba, the third accused, about the ongoing trial, not to directly involve himself in the trial. But speaking to journalists after Justice Ifya Asari Buchi, a justice of the Court of Appeal, had dismissed all applications from the accused person, said it was only advice, but he's in charge of the conduct of the case. Our legal affairs correspondent Mutala Inusa, who was on the ground, is in the studio to give us a better understanding of what happened in court today. Mutala, good evening, and briefly tell us what actually happened in court today.
So as expected, we're told that all the rulings in relation to the applications filed by the accused persons will be determined today, and rightly so. Justice Ifiasewa Saribuchi, 5 minutes after 12, as it were, took her seat, and then she, as it were, took the gathering through all the application. But just before the judge would proceed to even read her rulings, a lawyer for Richard Jakpa, lawyer Thaddeus Sorry, indicated to the court that he has filed an application at the Supreme Court, and what that application sought to do is to arrest the ruling of the court. But the court indicated that that particular application is not on the docket of the court, and if it was on the docket of the court, it would have been considered, but it wasn't on it, and so the court was proceeding to deliver its ruling. Now, lawyer, the court went ahead to say that even if she was cited or she's cited for contempt, he will hire Thaddeus Sorry to represent him in court. Which Thaddeus Sorry says that yes, he's a lawyer and he represents clients whenever his services is needed. Then the judge proceed to us to deliver the rulings one after the other. So you notice that there were three from lawyer Dr. Kasila Tuforsin and his lawyers, and one from Mr. Richard Jakpa. The court took turns to deliver rulings in the respect of all of them. In fact, one that was calling for an inquiry into the conduct of the Attorney General was refused. The one that he was also seeking for a mistrial was also refused because the court said that there's no legal basis for that particular call to be made or request to be made. And the court also went to, you notice that he made a case for the Attorney General to be injuncted from continuing, or the Attorney General's office to be injuncted from continuing to prosecute them in this matter. The court is saying that that request cannot also hold. Then the court came to Richard Jakpa's application, who was seeking for the charges against him to be dropped. The court listened to that, went into it, and also dismissed that particular request. So all the applications were dismissed. But there was one issue about the admissibility of the audio. Remember that one, where the Attorney General is said to have had some conversations with Richard Jakpa. That the court is saying that it is relevant and the court will admit it. So that one, the court said it will be on record and it will be dealt with accordingly. However, the court, upon examining the content of that particular audio, made some observation and advised the Attorney General to, as it were, for the best interest of the case of the way the case has taken public interest, and for the integrity of the judiciary, the court will advise him to, as it were, not involve himself directly in this whole matter. But of course, after the court sitting, Godfred Yeboah-Adame is saying that I am still in charge and I'm still in the matter and I'm conducting the case. Let's take a listen to what Godfred Yeboah-Adame said after the advice from the judge.
I'm conducting the matter. I'm still conducting the trial. The most important point today is that all the applications filed by the applicants have been dismissed in their entirety. All the 5 applications have failed. And I think that in reaction to this, I would say that clearly shows there's a group of people in this country who ride on manipulation of facts, distortion, and deception of the public. They're always seeking to mislead and deceive the public. Today they've been exposed. That is what I say. I leave the rest to my friends.
So now that they've been dismissed, all the applications have been dismissed. Yes. How do you see this case going forward?
Well, today when I was coming, I had a song in my spirit. Head of that church triumphant. You know that song?
I know.
Please. We joyfully adore thee. And then it goes on. Precisely. Continue. You have to play it in your radio stations. Head of thy church triumphant, we joyfully adore thee. And I said to you that they will lay traps, but all the traps I'll flee from them. And indeed, only righteousness will prevail.
Would you object to the audio record now without
So that is the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Adame, and in fact, it's giving us some tune there. Those of you who know how to sing, Godfred Yeboah-Adame is giving you some lines over there. So he's saying that he'll flee from the hands of all those who are setting traps for him in relation to that. But of course, Sami Jenfi, who is the National Communications Director of the NDC, and spoke to the media, he said, look, first of all, we welcome the recent ruling of Justice Efia-Serwa Asare-Botchwey, because for students of law, if you examine the ruling in its entirety, it's something that will help you. But of course, they disagree with the judge on some of the things that she mentioned in her rulings.
The proceedings of today in 3 parts. First is to commend the trial judge for delivering such a detailed, reasoned ruling on these interlocutory applications. As a lawyer myself and a student of the law, I must say that I was impressed. This enriches our jurisprudence and helps students of law to appreciate the law. It helps us to constructively agree and disagree or criticize the judgment. And so to that extent, I think this ruling contributes to the development of the laws of this country, and we commend the trial judge. The second has to do with our disagreements with many of the decisions the trial judge made. Now, you would realize that on the application by lawyers for the first accused, Honorable Atofose, for an order of mistrial and an order of inquiry to be made by the trial courts into the issues of prosecutorial misconduct and professional misconduct on the part of the Attorney General, the trial judge played Pontius Pilate by declining jurisdiction. In other words, what the trial court said was that no law confers jurisdiction on the court. Neither does any rule of practice confer jurisdiction on the courts. to make such orders. And therefore, the trial court directed Honorable Atufosin and the affected parties to seek redress at the appropriate forum, which, in the opinion of the trial court, is the General Legal Counsel. Now, ordinarily, that should have been okay for us, because what that means is that the court has not determined whether or not the Attorney General is guilty of prosecutorial misconduct, okay? What the court has basically done is to decline jurisdiction and say, go to the right forum. But that, for us, raises serious issues of law. Because number one, we know that per Article 140 of the 1992 Constitution, the High Court has jurisdiction in all matters, both civil and criminal, except in cases that the law has expressly taken away the jurisdiction of the courts. So that is the rule. The general rule is that in all civil and criminal matters by Article 140, the High Court, as a superior court, has jurisdiction unless a specific law has taken that jurisdiction away. We are saying that in this case, there is no law that takes away that general jurisdiction of the court relative to orders for mistrial and inquiry. Because you see, the court is there to do justice, and the court has a responsibility to ensure that its processes are not abused. And so where there are serious issues about abuse of the court processes, the court has the jurisdiction to deal with those matters under Article 140. And we don't know of any known law that takes away that power. Number two, assuming without admitting that there is no specific law that even confers that jurisdiction on the court, or that power on the court to make orders for mistrial and, orders for inquiry in our jurisdiction. The point is simple. The common law is part of the laws of Ghana. If you check Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution on sources of law, the common law is part of the laws of this country. And that is why when our laws don't provide for certain issues, judges will always refer to decided cases outside the jurisdiction. They have.
So you have there Sami Jemfi, and he's the NDC Communications Director. But let's go over the phone line and speak to a private legal practitioner, Yao Dankwa. Hello, sir. Thank you for making time to speak with us this evening.
Thank you.
Before we get deeper into this, the judge dismissed the case with reasons that the application had no legal basis. As a criminal lawyer, what do you make of this?
Well, it's a bit unfortunate, but the judge's reason is that the application more or less is not known to criminal jurisprudence, and there's no prescribed offense that the judge can actually consider to base the application on. But of course, as we are all advancing in the criminal practice and criminal jurisprudence, and law being a living organism, as well as the Constitution being a living organism, there's a provision where even if it's not prescribed in the law, and there is a codified law in other jurisdictions, so long as it's analogous to the Ghanaian jurisprudence, that can be adopted. So, I think maybe the judge doesn't want to stretch too far, but it's something that I think, we'll have to test the law, and we'll have to look at it in the future.
The judge also advised the Attorney General to, if possible, stay away from the case. But the AG on record is insisting that he's not bound to that advice. What would this mean for the prosecution or the case subsequently?
Right. See, in law, there is something called jurisprudence, and there's and we also have what we call law and morality, law and justice. Right. So, yes, the judge can only advise, and the Attorney General is not bound by the advice of the sitting judge. But in the interest and the spirit of the law, it is proper to administer proper justice if the prosecutor who is prosecuting the accused persons is actually tainted with such an allegation. It is only right and proper that he actually recuse himself and get another colleague from the office or somebody else, competent person to handle it, to deal with it. I mean, the DPP is there, and they are very competent and able professionals within the Attorney General that can prosecute this matter. And so to say that he's not bound by the decision of the courts, then he's going to continue. Well, I don't think he's helping the entire administration of justice in Ghana.
Right. How would you advise the accused persons in this particular case, considering the fact that the application has been dismissed? How would you advise them to carry on in the future of this particular matter?
Well, I think the judge on the driving seat is the one driving the whole affairs of the trial. And if the judge says there's no merit in their case and he wants to continue with the case, I think this person should continue with the case and present their case as cogent as possible to really punch holes in the case of the prosecution. At the end of it, if they're able to prove beyond reasonable doubt, then of course the verdict will go for them. And if they are not happy with the outcome of it, there's plenty of grounds to appeal the decision that goes against them. So my advice to the defense team is stay focused and present your case very cogent with the evidence you have, and no doubt, you might get what you want.
All right. Thank you so much, Yao Dankwa. Yao Dankwa is a private legal practitioner speaking to us on the back and forth in court today. But let's go back to Mutala, who is still in the studio. Mutala.
Yes, Awisi Dede. So that is Yao Dankwa there. So one person who has also been speaking is Nana B, the National Youth Organizer.
He was in court today?
Yes, he was in court today. And his position is that, yes, they have been saying all along that the tape is doctored. And this is a confirmation that, yes, the tape has been doctored. And the judge said she's heard them 10 times. She's listened to the tape 10 times, realized that it was rather Jakpa who was trying to put words in the mouth of the Attorney General. Let's listen to Nana B after the court sitting.
Must be dismissed, right? So first you notice that they said that the court should compel the AG to discontinue the prosecution. It was dismissed. They also mentioned about the fact that they filed a motion for mistrial, again was dismissed. And even the court, the judge in court today said that she listened to the tapes 10 times and nowhere on the tape were statements like implicate, autoforcing, coaching the accused. No, never. But this is what were being played outside. I mean, people playing to the gallery. The court said that it listened to the tape 10 times and nothing of that sort.
But you also agree that she finds it problematic that the Attorney General was engaging a suspect or an accused person in a conversation on a matter that is sitting before the court.
I'm not sure she said.
She said that.
No. She said that.
That is why she advised him to stay away.
If there's anything at all, there should be a different platform for that, and that is why she suggested that it is General Legal Counsel.
Yeah.
Right. And then she said that because of public interest and how this matter has generated, so much public interest, she will advise. Indeed, if you recall in court when the Attorney General stood up to speak, she again repeated that advice. That is only an advice, right? So anybody who will come out yesterday that the Attorney General is ordered not to be part of the conduct of this matter is clear falsehood. And I know people will start trying to push that out. She said advice. And I think that she can give that advice, but as to whether that advice should be taken or not, we need to leave that to the Attorney General. But what is important is that you cannot peddle falsehood. You cannot lie outside the courtroom and think that you can transfer same into the courtroom. Never.
So that is the national organizer of the NPP, Nana B, also giving us his side of the story after the court sitting. So today's court proceedings, he realized even after the court dismissed the application, Justice Efia wanted the trial to proceed. And what was happening was that Richard Jakpa was in the process of officially tendering in the said audio which would be played in the open court. In fact, he told the court that after showing his copy on the pen drive, he said he has 2 additional copies he wants to give to the party, the Attorney General and the first accused person. But the court, upon a request from lawyers of Dr. Kasela Tuforsin, represented by ADG Tamakulu, had to adjourn the case to next week, Tuesday, for a continuation. So on Tuesday, this very tape will come up to court. It will be played, and then its content will form part of proceedings in relation to this matter. So Dr. Kasela Tuforsin and Richard Jakpa will have to go through the remaining of the trial, and then the judgment will be determined to ascertain whether or not whatever the prosecution has brought to court is what's supposed to stand or otherwise of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Mutala Yunusa is our legal affairs correspondent, giving us details of what happened in court today. Let's do some related stories. The National Democratic Congress in the Memphis Central constituency is on fire following a High Court order restraining Joanna Kujo Jan as a parliamentary candidate on allegations that she forged a voter ID and NDC party card. The order from the court, presided over by Justice G.K. Jan, also restrained the NDC from allowing Joanna to be recognized as the duly elected NDC parliamentary candidate for the Memphis Central constituency. The order for an injunction, however, stated that the applicant shall file an undertaking to pay damages by way of compensation to the respondent if it turns out eventually that the applicant, in fact, are not entitled to the order of injunction so required. Let's speak to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Bande, and he's joined me on the phone for more. Good evening, sir, and thank you for making time to speak with us.
Hello?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So briefly, kindly walk us through what happened in Memphis Central constituency.
Well, if you ask specifically what happened in the Memphis Central constituency, it's got to be a bit specific because I do know that a lot of...
I mean, the circumstances that led to her injunction.
Oh, okay. So
right.
It's a very simple matter. Some members of the party who are plaintiffs believe that they don't understand why the PC, Madame Joanna Jan, be qualified as a member of the party, first of all, and then also emerging as the PC of the constituency. So they went to court, and they first of all seek the court to grant them an interlocutory injunction pending the determination of the substantive matter. So our lawyers were in court, and the applications were made. The judge indicated that he had some emergency, so he read a conclusive aspect of his ruling, and then granted the interlocutory injunction pending or giving way for the main issue to commence. And so that's what basically it is that is happening in the Awisi Center. But indeed, the party still continue to recognize PC as the elected parliamentary candidate of the constituency because she's gone through internal processes. The party is satisfied with her candidature. She went through elections. She won. All parties had, presented candidates, agents. Those agents signed onto the results that were declared, and all of those, righteousness was fulfilled. And so we are so surprised that members who really claim to love the party would take such a posture. But we are not worried because we know that all the processes that have been followed are lawful and are in accordance with the laws of the party.
Okay, so in essence, you're saying that the injunction means nothing to the party?
It doesn't mean anything to us because we elected Joanna Kujo as parliamentary candidate of the party, given our internal processes. It only means a lot to the plaintiffs in the matter, but it doesn't mean anything to us as a party because really she's gone through our process, our internal processes, and she went to election. And so we do not see why we should continue to see persons we believe qualified under the guidance of election of our own party, the constitution of our own party. We should not see her as a PC elect of the constituency. It was people that elected her. She wasn't appointed. She was elected. So we'll continue to see her. But we also allow the law to work so that the final determination of the issues, when the court goes into the nitty-gritty, then we can understand what it is. But we will not see her or cease to see her as a parliamentary candidate of our party. She is an elected candidate of the constituency. Her supporters will continue to see her as such because it was the same people who elected her. We will not allow the confidence that people repose in her to dwindle down for the sake of legal battle. She is a duly elected candidate of that constituency, competent enough to represent her people. You know her, she's a businesswoman, very versatile in mining. She comes up with that experience to help the party in terms of her expertise and understanding in the mining sector. So this is not just any candidate that can be, ruffled around. She's a heavyweight woman of integrity who the party and the people of Amemfi Central believe that can represent them in parliament at this time, and they have elected her. She competed with the current sitting MP, who lost to her, in a margin of about 200. The national chairman, general secretary, flag bearer of the party didn't impose Joanna Kujo on the people of Amemfi Central. And so at the back of the trust of the people, we cannot reduce who she is, what she represents in that constituency, for the sake of a handful of people who are in cost, seeking to use the court to hold all of us to ransom. No, the political party is supreme, and that will always stand supreme in the interest of the people of Amemfi Central.
Okay. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us. That was Deputy General Secretary for the NDC, in charge of operations for the NDC, Mustafa Bande. Let's move on and do other stories. The construction of a house for God ordinarily will draw little or no controversies at all, given how religious Ghanaians are. But the story of the National Cathedral is different. The project seems to pick up the top spot for the most controversial project in Ghana. Months to national elections, the project has become a touching part on the campaign trail where citizenry are keen on the take of the flag bearers of the two main political parties is. So what have Mahama and Bawumia been saying about President Akufo-Addo's Covenant Project for God?
I am firm in my view that by the grace of God and through Christ who strengthens me and my government, National Cathedral will be built to the glory and honor of God. Amen.
If there is any project that hits Ghanaians emotionally, the National Cathedral has to be it. The argument of spirituality and income generation has become the selling point by proponents, while opponents argue misplaced priorities and multiple breaches in procedure. Flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, has questioned the justification, such as children lacking desks will only incur the wrath of God.
Actually, we found that the Minister of Finance was releasing public taxes, and our taxes are paid by not only Christians, they are paid by Muslims. And so we can't use public funds, including the fund of people of other denominations, to build a cathedral for Christians alone. And you have to ask yourself, is it justified in this day and age when children do not have desks in schools? When children do not have textbooks? For 5 years, we've not provided our basic school children with textbooks, even though we've come out with a new curriculum because we say there's no money.
But the New Patriotic Party thinks otherwise regarding the God factor. Flag bearer of the party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in the Assembly of Clergymen, solicited support for the completion of the project.
I have contributed to its construction personally. I believe it's a very important thing for Ghana. But I think that as it stands now, the church has to come together and government and let us sit down and talk about the way forward for the National Cathedral. The church should come together and let us know the best way forward, how we can even get private resources to help us to complete the cathedral.
Either ways, the board of the National Cathedral is looking beyond political governments with optimism that the project will be successful even after President Akufo-Addo leaves the scene into retirement.
They assume power. They can't put an end to the project because the project is under a board. It is under a company limited by guarantee, a properly set up company limited by guarantee. It is not a government project. So you can't come and say that this is a government project and I don't want it.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
Public Health Fellow of CDD, Dr. Kwame Sapon-Osiedu, has charged government to address emergency needs of existing health facility rather than going on a construction for political expediency. As he reveals, only 5% of health facilities in the country have full complement of a basic consultant room. Government has set an ambitious target of constructing Agenda 111 hospitals, which it says will improve health service in the country. But speaking to Francis Aban on Morning Star, the pharmacist disclosed findings from the Ghana Harmonized Health Facility Assessment paint a gloomy picture of the country's health availability and readiness, requiring the pending issues are addressed before any new constructions are prioritized.
Only 5% of consultation rooms in the country have the full complement. But this report has been out. See, the whole country, if you look at the number of doctors on our doctors' roll, it's around 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the number of hospitals that require a doctor to operate, it's around 2,800, and that is also in the. So if you divide the number of doctors by the number of health facilities, we have something like 1.4 doctors per health facility that requires a doctor to run. But when you do the proper maths, because we have Tamale Teaching Hospital, Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, Confanachi Teaching Hospital, UGMC, Kolebu, and Ho Teaching Hospital. These, because they are specialist training facilities, you've not brought in the Rangers and the military because they are also training facilities now, have a higher number of doctors than the average hospital because they've got consultants, specialists, registrars, house officers. That's where they come train. So when you take their complement, where they have about 200, 250, depending on the numbers, out, a lot of our current hospitals do not have the full do not have more than 2 doctors to run. Why you hear in the rural areas that there's a district hospital with just 1 doctor.
1 doctor.
And so if you go by the mathematics of 8-hour shifts, which is the normal to maintain a healthy, that's the normal working routine that a human being. Ask yourself, where are you going to find the health human resource? I can do the calculation for nurses. I can do it for pharmacists because we've done the numbers at CDD. So but the thing is, health employment is a pyramid. So you've got the consultants at the top, and so if you have this amount of consultants, you might need this amount of specialists, this, that, and it goes down.
Yeah.
The question is, where are we going to find a health human resource to man these 111 hospitals, assuming they were all built? Taking into consideration the calculation I've just done and the fact that there's high health human resource migration out. Look, do you know the sunk cost value in our health system? And if I talk of sunk cost value, uncompleted health facilities that we've partly paid for, which is part of our, debt stock, that we are not getting any health benefit from because it's not running, that we are unable to complete because we had an IMF program. I would rather people tell me how they are going to cure the sunk cost value in our health system
than to build new ones,
to make them functional.
So you have the public health fellow of CDD, Dr. Kwame Sapon-Osiedu, speaking there. But how dire is this revelation, and what is the picture of our facility readiness in the country? Adam Kojo is with the research desk here at EIB, and he has joined me in the studio with a copy of that report. Adam, what more is in that report?
So we have with us what is known as the Ghana Harmonized Health Facility Assessment, and this report was actually published somewhere last year, and of which the CDD fellow is bringing to light. Now, basically, it's not so long a document, 15 documents, with so many infographics that makes it easy to understand. But then we want to move into what the key findings generally are. Now, to begin with, only 38% of all facilities offering inpatient services have dedicated isolation beds, according to this report, and 74% of regional hospitals, 68% of district hospitals, and 36% of other general hospitals offering inpatient services had dedicated isolation beds. So what we see is that when you move high up the level to a regional hospital, the percentage goes up, but generally across the country, only 38% of all facilities offering inpatient services have dedicated isolation bed. It also goes on to say overall 32% of facilities have access to an emergency transport system for patients. What this means is that 68% of facilities do not have access to emergency transport system. It also goes on to say 28% have computer internet and only 51% have a communication system in place, which shows that more than half do not have a communication system in place. Now, let's move on to what is really very problematic. Now, availability of basic equipment for examinations and measurement generally is lower than needed. And so what it says is that overall, over 5% of facilities, only 5% of facilities in the country had the full complement of basic consulting rooms, examination sets, and psychological measurement and anthropometric equipment. 38% of facilities had an examination light, 43% of facilities had a pulse examinator, and 58 and 70% of facilities had an infant and child scale respectively. So this basically gives you a very, very gloomy picture that majority of the things, when you take the nation as a whole, although the regional hospitals are doing well, over 50% of hospitals in the country are struggling. I'll end with this. Hospitals owned medical oxygen sources are not as widely available as needed. Only 54% of regional hospitals had oxygen available, and only 63% of hospitals had reliable oxygen therapy sessions. So even when you go to the regional hospitals, only 54% of them have oxygen readily available. A situation that tells you that when you go down to the lower levels, it actually would be worse, as we are seeing in there. So these are some very, very interesting findings that we have of generally our health facilities across the country having very, very, very low turnout or low percentages when it comes to healthcare access.
Okay, thank you so much, Adam. Adam Kojo is from the research desk here at AIB, and he just joined me in the studio with details of that report. But let's go over the phone line and speak to the former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Professor Titus Bayo. Good evening, Prof, and thank you for making time to speak with us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. Good evening to your listeners.
Right, Prof. These findings, paint a rather gloomy picture of our health facility. As a practicing doctor, how scary is this matter?
Well, it is very troubling and concerning, but it is not news to us who are in practice, because we feel it every time. Even in the major hospitals, you need some emergency equipment like a defibrillator, and you struggle. You go to a facility, and in the lower levels, you go to a test center or health center, and sometimes they don't even have a BP machine, when hypertension is the leading cause of morbidity in this country. So it is very troubling. It is troubling.
It's quite scary that this particular report hasn't sparked a national conversation yet. But do you side with calls to halt the Agenda 111 project and rather channel these funds into upgrading our existing facilities?
Well, I don't exactly side with the call, but I also don't agree with the entire principle of the Agenda 111. Yes, there are some places where they lack hospitals, like an entire district without a district hospital or a region without a regional hospital or referral center. those need these facilities. But I think proper prioritization and targeting should have been done. So if you go to the Eastern region where you have a very well-functioning regional hospital, at the Eastern Regional Hospital, and you decide to build another facility there, when you are struggling to equip the existing one and other ones, so for situations like that, then I will agree that we need to equip the existing facilities. Do, however, submit that it is important to add to the health infrastructure. So maybe not all 111 hospitals, but some proper targeting should have been done, so that districts where they don't have district hospitals, those districts should at least get a district hospital. Because there are some districts that, for the entire population of the people living there, a simple procedure like cesarean section is not available. And that's not acceptable. So for those districts, the Agenda 11 facilities are important. But to make it a slogan and all of that, getting 111 hospitals and talking about it, when really you don't see a proper thought-through process to even get them functional, is worrying. Because I'm not sure what percentage of these hospitals can be completed. So if they are targeted well and build 30 and make sure we complete them and equip them to work and channel the rest of the resources into equipping the existing hospitals, that would have been a more prudent use of money. But the question is there even money for all 111 hospitals? That is not being used. That has to be rechanneled somewhere. That's a question we all need to answer.
Right, Prof. Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking with us on that. That was the former General Secretary for the Ghana Medical Association, Professor Titus Abayu.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
Founder and executive chairman for the Africa Prosperity Network, Gabi Asare-Ochodako, has expressed excitement about the growth in the usage of mobile money despite concerns over introduction of e-levy. The introduction of the levy was met by stiff opposition from the minority and sector players, compelling the government to subsequently reduce the rate by 0.5%. Both NDC presidential candidate John Dramani Mahama and that of the NPP, Dr. Bawumia, have promised to scrap the levy should they win power. But addressing the media on the upcoming interoperability symposium on using mobile money to buy and sell in Africa, Mr. Ochodako, though welcomed the promise to scrap the levy, recognized the over 40% increment in the usage of mobile money in the country. Take a listen to him.
In Ghana, it's obvious that the leadership sees this scope of digitalization as a way for the continent. So if there's a promise that they will get rid of the e-levy, I think we must welcome that. But it was actually interesting. Just last week, we saw the figures of the total value of mobile money transactions for the first 4 months of 2024. And it stood at a record 779 billion cedis for the first 4 months of this year. About 41.55% year-on-year growth. So in spite of the challenges with internet, with power, with e-levy, we are still seeing growth in that area, okay? And whatever that has to be done to encourage more growth, we should do. But all we are saying is that the potential is huge. And look, online sales is also one way of dealing with unemployment, okay? Because on this continent, we have a market of 1.4 billion and growing. 1.4 billion. And if 50% of adults in Africa, and adults are from the age of 18, by the way, okay? 50% of adults in Africa did some form of digital payment, whether receiving or sending. It tells you the potential. And we are saying, I heard a Bloomberg reporter mention Nkrumah started something and it failed, okay? Maybe the continent was not ready for it, okay? But we are ready. The political leadership are saying that let's have a single market, All we are saying is that technology is way ahead, and technology is the way to achieve the single market. Because Africa is ahead in terms of the use of digital payment platforms and the rest of it. So let's exploit it further, and let's make sure that it cuts across borders. Let's make sure that we take away the borders. As we had, Sami said, let's take away what? It fades away the borders. So really, we need your support as the media, because at the end of the day, it is not for the primary benefit of the telcos. It is not for the primary benefit of the fintech, but it's for the benefit of MSMEs across the continent. It's for the benefit of you in your house who have started some small business that you know that you can sell it. But we are telling you it's not just this 33 million market in Ghana that you have access to, but a 1.4 billion market across the continent. So yes, we believe that there's a political will to make it happen.
So you have there the founder and executive chairman for the Africa Prosperity Network, Gabi Ose Ochredako, or chief executive officer at the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Engineer Kenneth Ashigbe, underscored the importance of a single payment platform for the continent.
Who says it has to be in euro, or who says it has to be in dollar? So we need to get our central banks coming together, because already it's happening. I've shown you on not something that would happen, but something that he has done already, where we are able to even roam and then settlements are made. So the technology exists, the frameworks exist, we can do it. So that's why we need to push for that to happen. The question you asked is a very important question. The issues about power, the issues about connectivity is really, really important. And it's going to be the bedrock for that to happen. Again, you know that a lot of you are able to do transactions without internet on the USSD platform. So that one, even if you have 2G and you are interoperable, you can do that on the 2G platforms. So let's use what we have to be able to build what we want to get. But as we talk about that, that's why for me, the AP network, once they also are bringing the government in, they're bringing the AU in, so that the governments need to pay attention to that. So that when you then make sure you bring policies in place that would ensure that, you get the growth of this infrastructure, you get investments into these places. So we've had on the 14th of March, we had this fiber disruption and the sea fiber disruption. I think in May as well, in the South African areas, 2 cables again were disrupted. It means we need to start paying attention to how are we going to improve our resilience? Are we going to be able to get to a point where we are because already a lot of our countries are interconnected when it comes to power, and we sell power amongst ourselves. On those power pylons, are we going to be able to put some terrestrial fiber also onto that and be able to grow that? Do we then see these things that, because you are building interoperability, you then realize that these are the internet and then your telecom infrastructure and the financial infrastructure are then the utilities that would enable works to go. What will also happen is that once you start doing that, you create the demand. So even in areas where in the past, and Ghana is another example again, so the NCA decided that they were going to allow the telcos, the rural telcos they have, for them to be able to do 3G, not only 2G. And you will find out that the reasons that a lot of these have developed is that once you put the network there, it's not about people just talking. They are doing business. They're doing mobile money. So you create a demand. And once you create that demand with interoperability, what will happen is that a small country like Gambia, for example, the telcos will think that it's good to go there, to go and set up. The fintechs will think so you create the demand. So the most important thing is to put these rails together so that we can use these rails to drive the prosperity in and be able to bring our people on. It is the thing that is going to capacitate our people to be able to do the things that they are doing already in a better way.
Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe.
Starr Today, first, fast, and credible.
You're still listening to Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM. Two other stories. Over 508,000 companies and businesses risk being struck out from the Office of the Register of Companies by the end of June 2024 for failing to file their annual returns and renewal. According to the registrar, the ORC, Jemima Owari, defaulting private and public businesses have been served notices and reminders through education and multiple publications for the past 2 years to file their annual returns to be in good standing. There's more in this report.
The Registrar General of the Office of the Registrar of Companies, Jemima Owari, cautioned businesses, including media outlets, to file their returns to avoid being struck out of the register.
Between now up to the end of June, to come and update us. If they don't, then from 1st July, we'll take their names off the register. When we take your name off the register, what that means is that you cannot carry on business in Ghana. You cannot continue to be holding bank accounts and carrying on business, because we will put those names in the papers, we'll put it on our website, we'll inform the banks that these companies' names have been taken off the register. So anybody who does business with them do so at their own risk.
According to her, companies and businesses who fail to file their annual returns may end up losing their business and company names to new members who show interest in registering those names.
A business name's lifespan is just 1 year. If you don't renew on a yearly basis, the name lapses. So all these 500,000, some are going as far back as the 90s, some 2000. And they've never bothered to renew. So in reality, it's like they don't exist in our records. And out of the business names, a few, just about 5,000 of the 500,000 have renewed. But between now and the end of June, I believe a lot of them are renewing. But this is just to sell an alert.
She stressed that companies' names struck off the register can only be restored after a court finds sufficient cause and therefore issues an order to the Registrar of Companies directing the restoration of the name to the register as per Section 289 Clause 7 of the Companies Act 992.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
We apologize for that long break. Let's do other stories now. The prosecution in the Tema Impakadan train accident has told the court repairing the train will cost over $2 million. According to the prosecution, an examination of the damage caused to the train was conducted by the manufacturers of the train, and the damage is valued over $2 million. You will recall that on April 18, 2024, the newly procured train during a test run on the Tema Impakadan railway line was involved in an accident at Isujaman district in the Eastern region. Abel Gidoto, the driver allegedly responsible for the train accident, has been sentenced to 6 months. Let's go over the phone line and speak to the CEO for the Railway Authority for more on this. Good evening, sir, and thank you for making time to speak with us. Hello, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We want to confirm if indeed to repair works of the train actually cost over $2 million.
Thank you so much. So, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Carry on.
Okay, sure. So, basically, the train was under what we call site acceptance test before the train was going to be handed over to the government of Ghana. At the point of the accident, the train had not been officially handed over to the government of Ghana. Also, the train was fully insured by the supplier and the manufacturer. So it was going to cost the Ghana government absolutely nothing, because officially it has not been handed over to the government of Ghana. So whether it is the repairs or the replacement of the train, it will cost Ghana government nothing.
But sir, there are concerns that over $2 million is quite a huge amount of money.
Yes, $2 million is a huge amount of money. And as I said, even though it's a huge amount of money, the train was fully insured by the manufacturer and supplier. And therefore, the government is not responsible for any of the $2 million that is going to cost to repair or to replace any damaged part of the train.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarity there. That was Awisi, and he's the Chief Executive Officer for the Railway Authority. You're still listening to Starr Today here on Starr 103.5 FM. We'll be back.
Starr Today, first, fast, and credible.
To other stories, amidst the heavy rains, motorists who ply the Obeche-Bilamte Interchange construction area have expressed worry over the state of the project, with others being skeptical of our government's promise of completion by September. The $135 million project, anticipated to reduce gridlocks at the Ring Road West area, could not meet the 2023 completion timeline due to financial constraints. This has left road users and traders close to the site frustrated and inconvenienced. There is more in this report.
Last year, 2019, I was here to cut the sword for the commencement of work for the construction of the Obeche-Bilamte interchange. Today, a little over a year ago from that momentous event, I'm happy to be back here to commission the first phase of the Obeche-Bilamte interchange, which has been completed 5 months ahead of schedule.
More than 3 years, the Obeche-Bilamte interchange construction project, which is intended to reduce traffic congestion on the Ring Road and its immediate environs, seems to be stalling. Coupled with the heavy rains recently, the road is almost unmotorable as potholes and clogged waters are visible everywhere around the construction site.
Now, say, like, free, I seke ba. Sa I would do me said one more. Free on more ba. Nsuo to na as kwen asai. Obe say cars no. Omuntimi nko. Movie. Obe say traffic na achi bebre.
Last in so far me tai. Korea no han me kokochere no. E fa tai kase o. In so far ni free. Boni be nim ha sei. Korea no han me kokochere a chese nyanyame a nka nsuo e de ne koe. In fact nsuo de to a ekwan nyina yiri kanko ka ma. Intin sesen de se omso mo ye kwan de a omo hwe ntia ni susu se ron be ye ma ahotode adan aba na enso yetimanya kwan so ahwe aye adwuma na emom no de hia me kase pa me kan se mfitiase no a oma me hwe no
A visit to the site saw field men standing idle with little to no work being done. The project, which commenced in February 2021, was expected to be completed by March 2023, but was halted, then later faced intermittent setbacks until March 2024, when the then Minister of Works and Housing, Francis Asenso-Boakye, assured of completion by September 2024. This, some motorists have expressed skepticism over.
Ajuma omoye no slow tembia obeba no so omoye ajuma so hu ba bia omoye ajuma no pote no
so de to a ekwan nyina yiri kanko kama.
As more rains are expected to come, with barely 4 months left for completion, will the Obechebi-Lamte interchange be completed before the September 2024 deadline? Or Ghanaians should brace themselves for another delay? For GH1 News, Awisi, Dede, Jange. The Ghana National Fire Service has dispelled the claim that one person passed following Wednesday night's inferno at Ecomog, a section of the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. The service says it is yet to begin investigations on the cause of the fire. The inferno destroyed wooden structures near the railway line, causing a power outage in Adabraka, Accra New Town and surrounding areas. This incident is the second fire since February 2022, prompting an unsuccessful evacuation order.
Had been doused, these affected residents were seen sifting through the charred remains of their shops and homes, hoping to salvage the little they could. Madina Moro, a mother of two who sells drinks in the makeshift structure in the area, says she has lost all her investments.
Boku so wan kasa onim se ntakwade bia na edwane ba ha aha nkra ha ya ntimi haidan aha na ewo na ye business kakra mi ton nema wa ha kakra mi nema yina ahyi mi so mi won kwala mensa mi na mi hwe omo enti aban ye sira no se onya abochire onja ye na entina kakra nensa nye bibi kakra ye nye bibi kakra ye betimi akope baby fufuro.
How many months are that?
10 years go to 10 years ye pe 10 years kura na ntimi hwe ye nkwala na omko school bi ansa.
But during a visit to commensurate with victims whose goods and properties were ravaged by the fire, Greater Accra Regional Minister Titus Glover gave a stern warning to the settlers not to rebuild their demolished structures.
On exactly 22nd of February 2022, there was a similar fire incident here that gutted all over the place, thinking that we'll learn lessons out of this. This morning coming here, you see the grid code transmission lines, a national asset. This fire that gutted the place, if it affected any of the lines, we're all gone. And I'm so sad that human beings are living under these pylons at the peril of their lives. It's unfortunate that they are living here under their circumstance, but I've instructed that nobody should live here anymore. Nobody, and we mean it.
Responding to the minister's warning, Mohammed Kwachi, a shop owner in the area, says they will vote against the government if they are evacuated from the area.
Some family free as a monso, you need money, see us already to Pia, and ye my no. It is residents of me antenna, you see, to vote to national. Some family free, yes, we have a year, and the uncanny boy. This open year, you need baby a business. Kakaka claims we did. The boy home by me, mamma, you know. And one I did home.
Meanwhile, Corporate Communications Manager of Gridco, Jifa Bampo, is appealing to squatters at Ecomog to vacate the area as the Ghana Grid Company lays claim to the area as a path.
A lot of work will start today. The engineers, as you've seen, they've been here since yesterday and they've been here again since this morning. This line is out for now. This is the Achimota Accra Central transmission line. It connects to our bulk supply point at Accra Central. And so currently there is no power going through it because we have to isolate the line and ensure that the work can be done safely. We also need to protect life because, as you see, there are still people around here trying to gather the remains of what they may have lost or what they can salvage. And so to protect life and property, we've had to put out the line. Work will continue. We know that some areas in Accra have been affected as a result of the outage of the line because of the damage brought on by the fire. So we apologize to those without power at this time. The engineers are working, and hopefully by close of day today, they will be restored. So that is the preliminary assessment that we have.
So the question people keep asking is that this is a place where residents are not supposed to be. Why have they been allowed to be here and this has happened?
This area where the transmission lines are located is usually called the right-of-way access. Right-of-way issues are one of the most challenging aspects of Gridco's business. And that is because a lot of the time we acquire the lands to do these transmission projects and the lands need to be threadbare, meaning there should be no one there, nothing there. But people tend to see the land as free land and then illegally locate on it. So that has been one of the biggest challenges the company has faced over the years with reference to these lines. So I would like to really use this opportunity to encourage the general public not to live under these transmission lines. I'll give you an example. We all are in our homes and we have these 3-pin plugs. I'm sure our little children will not put their fingers in 3-pin plugs because they know they will get electrocuted. And those are much smaller voltages. So imagine this one, which is 330,000, or in this particular case, 161,000 kilovolts. I mean, if this line touches anyone, it will just be ashes. We will not see a human body, and we don't want that. We are a company that cares about people. And so from time to time, we have been undertaking patrols. We educate the people in these areas, and we've been doing it. We do it here, we've done it at Fiesta Royale, we've done it in Kumasi, in the Western region, because we also have Galamsey activities affecting our transmission lines and towers. So we've been doing a bit, but the challenge is that a lot of the time people...
So you had there the Corporate Communications Manager of Gridco, Jifa Bampo, there speaking to my colleague Obed. But let's go over the phone line and speak with PRO for the Ghana National Fire Service, Alex King Nate. Alex, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, when my colleague spoke to you earlier, you said investigations were yet to begin. How far with that, please?
Okay, so investigation actually began yesterday as firefighting was in progress. Today, our investigation department followed up with visits to the site to carry out more investigations. With fires like this, it's not a one-day. Even with regular fires, it's normally not a one-day investigation. It could take up to weeks to investigate. And so it's in progress, and then all possible angles and all possible causes of fires. So once we are done, we'll do well to submit the findings to the Assembly for necessary action to be taken.
Will it be premature to ask what actually led to the fire, since the investigations are still ongoing?
Yes, it will be a bit premature because I wouldn't want to preempt the gun. So I'll just say that we are considering every option available as a cause of fire, and so we're able to come up with a substantive cause of fire.
But you can help us with a timeline. I mean, between what and when we should expect the findings of the investigations.
So, as I said, you see, it's a lot. It's a very wide place that was gutted by the fire. And in our investigation, we take a lot of things into consideration. The seat of fire, the how far the fire spread. Those are things that we look out for. And the fact that we'd interview people, what they would say, ascertain what they say. So it would, I'll be a liar to give a timeline, but I'm hoping that in some weeks' time, we should be able. The only thing is that once we are done with investigations, we don't put out our findings. We submit our findings to the owners or the custodians of the area. They even have to apply. So once they apply, then we give it to them. So then it beholds on them whether to make it public or not.
Okay. High populated areas are prone to risk like this. What is the fire service stand regarding the continued presence of squatters in high risk areas like this?
So as a service, our hands are quite tight. What we do is that one, we don't discriminate when it comes to education. We go to every nook and cranny to try and get the education message through. For a place like that, we know the high risk of fires, so we pay attention to areas like that. But unfortunately, people's reception towards the Ghana National Fire Service is very abhorrent when it comes to education. People have nonchalant attitude towards our officers and sometimes tend to have violent posture towards our officers. So we do our part. We investigate, we educate, and then we leave the rest. Since we don't have prosecutorial powers yet, we do our part in assemblies, different recommendations that we
Okay, Alex, we would have to end it here because we were struggling to hear your later submission, but that was the PRO for the Ghana National Fire Service, Alex King Nati, speaking with me there.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
The Ministry for Land and Natural Resources has disclosed that the government is finding ways of exploring frameworks for treating critical issues such as value-added tax on exploration. According to the Minister of Land and Natural Resources, Samuel Jinapor, when the framework is properly structured, it will reduce the financial burden on exploration companies. So take a listen.
The 17th West African Mining and Power Conference and Exhibition, WAMPOC or WAMPEX, is to collaborate and create synergies in the mining and energy sectors of West Africa to drive sustainable development for Africa. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the three-day conference, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, said the government, together with the Chamber of Mines and GRA, will review the frameworks to treat critical issues such as value-added tax.
Recognizing the importance of exploration as the lifeblood of mining, we are promoting investment in exploration to uncover new mineral reserves and sustain the long-term viability of our mining industry. We are, for example, working with the Ghana Revenue Authority and the Ghana Chamber of Mines to explore the best framework for treating critical inputs such as value-added tax VAT on exploration.
Guest speaker Odenihon Ochre Kusi Ntrama, the Benkum Hene of Asanteman, said power is expensive. Hence, leaders in the power sector should use the opportunity to bring power into West Africa.
Here we've put up a refinery, and this is going to take lots of energy. People in the power sector look for this opportunity, bring more power into West Africa and connect the grid. That if Ghana is down, Burkina Faso should be able to produce, Cote d'Ivoire should be able to produce.
President of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Michael Edem Akafia, explains that Africa has no choice but to embrace sustainable development principles as they navigate the complexities of the mining industry.
Issues relating to innovation, including artificial technology and deployment of
technology, explore investment opportunities, as well as address issues of current challenges and current trends in both industries, and more particularly things related to sustainability.
The WAMCO WAMPEX conference is to explore opportunities and chart a course for the future of mining and power in West Africa.
So that was a report from the Ministry for Lands and Resources where the minister disclosed that the government is finding ways of exploring frameworks for treating critical issues such as value-added tax on exploration. Let's do some sports story now. English Premier League clubs have voted by 19-1 in favor of keeping video assistant referees next season. Wolves triggered a vote on the use of VAR in the 2024-2025 season after formally submitting a resolution to the Premier League in May. In order for VAR to be scrapped, 14 of the 20 Premier League clubs needed to vote in favor of doing so, but only Wolves voted in favor of the proposal as they failed to gain any support from other top flight clubs. Wolves said they were disappointed with the outcome of the vote but welcomed the Premier League's commitment to improve VAR. But Black Stars are to play against Mali tonight. Sports reporter Benjamin Yamwa has joined me on the phone for more. Benjamin, who and who are in the lineup?
Well, thank you very much. And interestingly, the biggest news from the squad released today by Coach Ocho Addo for this all-important qualifier against Mali is that junior brother for the captain of the Black Stars, Jordan Ayew, has been dropped onto the bench. He does not start. The first time in a game for the Black Stars in a while now. Now, this comes on the back of his senior brother and captain, Andre, being left out. The Black Stars squad released by the coach. So he drops to the means for the starting 11 for the coach. It is Lawrence Ati-Zibi. He is in goal. Then right back, it looks like the coach is playing a three system today. At 3, he has Seydou Alidu on the right. There's Alex Chiku in the middle. On the left, there's Mohamed Salisu, and also he's playing the wing backs. On the right to be, Tariq Lamptey, the Brighton Hove Albion defender from England, and then on the left side is going to be Gideon Mensah. Midfield is marshalled by Captain Thomas Tepate together with Abdul Samad Salis. The front three, if you like, is made up of Antoine Semenyo, Mohamed Kudus, and then, of course, Ernest Niama. These are the 11 players kicking off the game for Ghana in the game kicking off under some 40 minutes out there in Bamako, Mali. That's a lineup released today, just some few minutes ago, by Coach Otoado for this huge encounter against Mali.
Well, Benghazi, you will be following this keenly for us, but what are the chances of win for us, Black Stars?
Difficult game. That's the bottom line. Very difficult game for the Black Stars. The start of not being in the best of shape for some time now, and taking on a team that are also doing very, very well in Mali, also playing at home in Bamako, makes it a lot more daunting. But there's something we have come to know with the Black Stars team is that they rise to the occasion when they play against these big teams in Africa. You recall in our qualifiers for the last World Cup in Qatar, Ghana were paired in the game against Nigeria in a time when the Stars were not doing well. But the Stars and the Otaodo then managed to get the better results to see them qualify over Nigeria. So we'll have to wait. The chances are that Mali are favorites. That's the bottom line. Mali are favorites for this game as it is being played in their own backyard in Bamako. But in football as it is, and with the players we have in our team, and then the new coach in charge who now wants to cut a new path for the team, a win or a draw is likely for the Stars, even though Mali, like I said, are the favorites for this game.
All right, thank you so much, Benjamin Yamwa, for giving us those details. That was our sport reporter, Benjamin Yamwa, giving us updates on the game between Black Stars and Mali tonight. Before we go on international front, U.S. President Joe Biden has drawn parallels between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and World War II in a speech commemorating the 80th anniversary of Dede, where a seaborne invasion on 6th June 1944 took the lives of several heroes. Speaking at the commemoration anniversary, Joe Biden describes the Russian-Ukraine conflict as being part of an unending struggle between dictatorship and freedom. The president vowed to support Ukraine, stand for freedom, and demand democracy for the people of Ukraine and their neighbors.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
And that brings us to the end of Starr Today here on Starr 103.5 FM. For more news, log on to starfm.com.gh. Have a good evening.